Hi and welcome to the 30-day Cocooned at Home Wellness Retreat. So we're up to day 8. So what I wanted to touch base with first was the reason that I put up the information on the body systems yesterday is to show how everything's so interconnected. When we trained, we get taught that everything's, this is this system and this is this system, and not necessarily how everything interconnects together. So I just wanted to show that food will also have an emotional component as well, and how you can actually work with that, with the types of food and the choice of food that you actually have. So just to show you that everything is so connected, when we look at water, and the reason I did water as it was the second one, day 2, but it's in our food, as Dr. Emoto showed in the water experiments, that even our thought processes and our words can affect water. So looking at our body as mainly water and the food that we're eating as mainly water, what we're actually doing in regards to our food and everything is so important. Particularly when we prepare our food. So I keep looking at my bags under the eyes. They're not really there, it's just that I'm under downlights and it's creating an interesting look. Because it's dark outside. I've been busy doing paperwork today and checking on grants and things like that. So having got that all sorted, I will keep going. So yes, when we prepare our food, if you're in a really crabby, angry mood, the food is going to taste different. You could do the same recipe 10 times, but it will change according to how you feel. And it's the same with, sometimes you might go to a restaurant and you think, oh, that's really not up to the usual standard. Probably depends what sort of emotional state the chef was in. Because we certainly do influence the molecules, as in the water that is around us. And you've got to remember that we're all energy. So break us down to our most smallest component and we're just energy. So energy affects everything around us. So how we feel when we eat will also set off a response. So if we are not feeling great, we're actually not going to set up the proper digestive functions to be able to digest our food correctly. So this is why mindful eating is so important, because you activate... Sorry, I've just had something jump up. I don't know if it's jumped up on your screen. So let me get back to where I was. Mindful eating, yes. So mindful eating is really important because you actually need to take the time to sit down, look at what you're eating, and actually savor every component of what you're eating. Now, what you do when you're mindful eating is you're activating your brain. So when you start to activate your brain, you bring in all these chemicals, our hormones, everything that, and enzymes and everything that's required to actually digest the food. So it makes it much easier for us to digest and break it down correctly. The other thing that you'll find when you do some mindful eating is that you will be fuller quicker. So when we eat mindlessly, we eat a lot more because we don't chew it correctly, and we just gulp it down. So we eat a lot more than we actually need. But when you start to think about what you're doing and taking it spoonful or forkful or what have you at a time, it's amazing how much less you actually need particularly if it's good quality food. Now, if it's empty calories, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to fill up. So where we eat is also makes an effect. I touched on yesterday about sitting on a couch to eat. So you have your plate on your lap and you're actually hunching over because you don't want to be dropping it onto yourself. So you hunch over the plate and you're eating like this. So that's squashing everything and it's not going to allow you to digest your food very well. You will also note that those foods listed yesterday in regards to the systems are all healthy foods. But these foods don't suit everybody. So don't think, oh yes, I can just have all those, because sometimes they may not work the best for you. This is where you need to get a little bit more individuality in. They were put together by Don Tolman, so you saw those big encyclopedia things that I had that breaks everything down. I mean, it goes down in a lot more detail than that, but that just gives you some idea of how food will influence us. Now, he's a vegetarian, so not everyone's going to be suitable to vegetarian type diet. You know, I love that way because it actually suits me. You know, it's wonderful for me because I'm an A blood type. So I'm mainly plant-based. There's actually no beneficial meat for me that I can take into my body that's going to help it to heal and repair. I've got a few safe meats, but most of them are in my avoid collection. So some people may not be able to tolerate all those different types of food. And so I want to start to reintroduce, I introduced it a little bit yesterday, but I'm going to go a little bit more into the blood type diet and what it's all about. So before we go into that, let's look at genetics, and I researched genetics before I was taught about the blood type diet in the 90s. So with genetics, the way they've traced genetics back is everyone came out of Africa, and it's something that they know. You know, the ABO blood types have been around about 100 years, so they've been doing lots of research, and you know, more and more is being done all the time. So the more information we get, we'll be able to completely tailor our diets, and they're starting to now with what they call epigenetics, which is looking at the specifics of what we actually need as an individual. But with everyone coming from Africa, and then we've ended up migrating through to the Mediterranean, to India and over to Asia, and I'm assuming it then came down into Gondwana land, because we were all connected back then. And further migration occurred from there that actually went further up into the cold countries, which is Northern Europe and places like that. Now, enter the reason behind the blood type diet. So two main researchers have been working through with this, and it covers over about 60 years of research to get to where it is at the moment. So it's nothing new, it's not a new fad, it's not going to come in and out and do whatever. It was researchers that wanted to know how our diet related to our ancestors, and was there a particular connection, because now particularly everyone moves around the world and people are not where they originally started from, because you know, we all travel. Our work takes us in different places. So the father and son were Dr. Diadmo's And as I said, 60 years of research have gone into it. What I find fascinating about it is that it's so individualized. I've got a number of the books. As I said, I research a lot and I study a lot. But one of the books I've got is about that thick, and it's an encyclopedia of disorders and diseases. And what they've found is particular illnesses, according to the blood types, need to be treated differently. So different drugs, for me as an A blood type, it's not necessarily the same drug for an O blood type, or what's going to work best for an O blood type. So it's fascinating, depending on, I just find all these things amazing, because, for me, it's all about preventative. I'm not one of these people, and it's not something that I've been brought up, is to get sick, to go along in a particular direction, not worrying about what's happening to your health. And then you get to a stage where you think, whoa, I've got to change my diet, I've got to change my lifestyle. We've always been brought up that we try and do the best from the word go and look after ourselves from when we were very little. So from what they've been able to track, your blood types start back in Africa. Well, actually, they start well before then, because the ABOs are in everything from invertebrates through to pond scrum. So you've got blood types all over the place. Homo sapiens are probably the only ones that they have all 4 blood types in the one, I don't know if you can call them a person. But yeah, the very early men had all 4. They believe from a molecular structure that the A blood type is the oldest or the most ancient of all the blood types, but somewhere along the line that was superseded by the O blood type, which in what we call modern man, which is 60,000 years or so ago, became the dominant of all of them, and that is the top of the food chain. So the O became the main one to note. And the O is a hunter-gatherer, so meat eaters, very big meat eaters in those early days. So through migration, as people moved into that Mediterranean through to India, through to Asia, they no longer were hunter-gatherers. So they changed to a fish and a agricultural community, because that's where agricultural practices first started. So became more plant-based and fish, not necessarily meat per se, because they no longer had to hunt their food. So when further migration occurred into the northern European areas, into the colder climates, again adaptations needed to occur, and most of these earlier settlers were nomads, so they didn't stop in one particular place. So in the Mediterranean area is the adaptations that occurred because of the changes in the diet. And this is not overnight. This is not one generation. This is a number of generations that this occurs in. That was the A blood type band. So the further migration into the colder climates became the B blood type band. Now, about 1,000 years ago, between the A's and the B's, there was actually migration, and I guess that's where the strongest started to overtake the weaker communities, and you started to have a blending of the blood types, and that's where you get the AB blood type. So the AB is the enigma, so they're getting a little bit of, that's the final component of the adaptation so far. It will be interesting to see if we need to adapt further because of everything has changed so much with the current modern lifestyle. So yeah, ABs are very, very new, so they get a little bit of everything. But to put it simply, the O's and the B's are very similar. So both are meat eaters, and they can tolerate fats. They have a fast metabolism that allows them to do that, where the A's and the ABs, although B's can eat meat, they have a slower metabolism, so not as easy to assimilate meat and fat in through the body because of the inability to digest very well. So from a stress point of view, the O's need intense physical exercise to work with it. And sorry, I've got someone in the window looking at me. And the A's under stress have a calming environment. As I was saying, walking and working with yoga and practices like that are really good. The B under stress need creativity, and the ABs under stress, they get a little bit of everything. So they cope best with spirituality, with a tendency to need physical movement, and also creativity to manage their stress. So with each change, the main adaptive mechanism that was required was our digestive system. And this is why not one size fits all. So you can't have a diet that everyone's going to cope with. For instance, the low carb healthy fat diet is great for some people, but not for others. The paleo, from what I can look at from the paleo diet, works best with the O blood type, whereas the Mediterranean diet probably works best with the A blood type and things like that, if you've got to try and pigeonhole them somewhere. So I wanted to talk about you can get an app if you're interested in understanding a little bit more about your blood types. You can actually get an app, and I don't know if you can see, where is it? It's not going to click through. No. It's called, you just look for the blood type diet, but the logo, because there's a few copycats around now, the logo that you want is Eat Right for Your Type, and it's got the big number 4 in the middle of it. That's the original, and that's the one that you want to follow. The app gets updated all the time, which is great, so you're getting the latest. I'll actually take it because it's on my phone, as well as we've got it on quite a few of the tablets here, because when I'm talking to clients, I want to see what's, particularly with skin clients, with acne and things like that, you just want to find out what are the best foods for them and what they need to get rid of out of their diet, because you've got to think of the way that they break it down in the app is you have green foods, which are your beneficial foods. Now these are going to heal and repair the body. Then the next down, you've got your neutral foods. Now these are not going to harm you, but they're not going to heal you either. And you want 20% of the diet in the neutral foods. But what you want to stay with, and it's what I tell most of my clients to do, is whatever you do, stay away from the red section, which is the avoid section on the app, because these are foods that are going to create inflammation in the body. So inflammation is the precursor to basically everything that happens in our all diseases, I should say. So that's why I'm so adamant that I stick with it. I've tried all the others. I keep coming back to this because it works the best with me, and I've tried so many different ones over the time. But it's very specific to me. So I know if I can stay in the green section that my body's healing and repairing. So that's important because as you get older, I'm 60, so I certainly don't want to be crippled up with major issues where I'm going to need the next 40 years of my life or whatever to be in a doctor's surgery all the time. So it's why I sort of look at it. But the other thing is, as an A blood type, all the cancers, pretty well most of the cancers, are A-type cancers. And it's one of the problems of being an A blood type is that if we get cancer, because they're A-type cancers, they live in our body and they grow in our body without us seeing it as foreign. So it's usually by the time it actually turns up in our body, it's usually too late. So it's really important to have an awareness of what you eat and what you're doing as a preventative measure, so that you can stay as healthy as you can. So I'll put that information up for you anyway. So your action step for today is mindful eating. As we're all locked down, you shouldn't need to be rushing off or doing anything unless those that are still working, still take the time to really enjoy your food. So savor each mouthful, chew well, and you'll find you'll need a lot less before you actually start to feel full. So what you're doing is activating your mind, which allows all the juices to work in your mouth. So it brings all the salivas and all the enzymes that you need to break down the food. And that same thing happens all the way through. So you process your food and you break it down much easier. So that's all for today. I've gone a little bit longer by the looks of it. I apologize for that. I will touch base with you tomorrow. Bye.